That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. In case I need notes.
You're not just checking Facebook up there?
No, I do it all the time, but I'm working on that addiction now that it's so publicly known. But I'm really not ashamed even. I'm not. All right. But I am I'm a Facebook addict, I admit. But I have really good taste in what I share. All right. So today, Joe and I asked Joe to help me because I didn't know if I would be a mess and would start crying today. Actually, I am okay, but I always like to get a backup and do some self-care, so I did. All right. But today we're going to have a little different kind of talk because we're going to talk about this community, where it came from, up to pretty much where we are now. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but it appears that we've changed our name.
Yeah.
It kind of came in through the back door.
Yeah.
Sherrie, why didn't you just tell us? Anyway, it's okay though, I think. So we have been Unity Church of Lawrence for years, and now it appears that we are Unity of Lawrence. Now, personally, I have no attachment to the word church. The word church has a lot of connotations that might not reflect who we really are now. So, I mean, everybody has different opinions, like what color to paint the walls, and, you know, new churches get made over things like this. But we won't have to leave over it, I don't think. We'll be all right. But we're Unity of Lawrence, officially, all right? And we use the Unity mark, the trademark that's in our sign that links us to unities all over the world. And when people see it, if they've ever seen anything about unity now, they'll know that's who we are. Okay, so I think that's a really good connection that unites us symbolically, and we are united. Also, I've noticed Sherrie, instead of saying the church, she says the community. And I really like that too, but it may be hard to break that pattern because like we've had 35-ish years of saying church. So it might slip out. But community is a wonderful word that to me doesn't have any connotations of rigidity or sin. You know?
And it rhymes with unity.
Yes. That's right. Beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to ask Jo to tell whatever she wants about the history of the church. Yeah, it's on her, not me. About the history of our community. And then I'm going to tie it up with my perspective. And we may not even have the same opinion, but you know, we often don't, but it's okay. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. This isn't notes. This is our manifestation thing that we did for the way we got Rev Sherrie, and I'll get back to that later. I'm kind of the historian. Tom Bogartis has been here longer than me, and actually Janet, is Janet here today? She was here when I started, and then she left and came back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Spiegel. So why do you look at history? Well, I'm going to tell you the couple of reasons, and then for me, the real reason. You look at history so you can see what you did right, so you can do it again. You also look to see what you really would prefer not to do again, because the consequences were, you know, not what you had hoped for. But really, okay, I've been teaching these classes in Spiritual Awakening since 2004. New class begins March 18th, shameless promotion.
March 18th.
And one of the questions that's most frequently asked is, what's my path? What's my spiritual path? And the answer is, well, what have you been doing? Because you can't get off your spiritual path. You can maybe mess around and take the long way around or whatever, but you can't get off your spiritual path. And I think that's true for our church as well. So now that we're in this place again, let's take a look and own our path. Unity of Lawrence started as a study group in a chiropractor's office. And it grew in numbers, got too big, went to Pine Tree Townhouses. Their clubhouse got too big, went to Oddfellows Hall at 15th and Haskell. That's when I joined. Had a wonderful, wonderful student minister, Stan Smith. And we grew, and we grew, and we grew. And finally, we got a real church at 8th and Kentucky. Now, I believe that part of our path has to do with our geographical location, because we're very close to Unity Village. And Stan Smith, who was a dynamic student minister, the best of the best, came to us because we were so close. That's a theme that repeats over and over again. But, okay, now, Sharon and I, when we sat down the other day, we figured that counting transition and temporary ministers in the 41 years since we've been here in existence, we've had 20 ministers. That's a lot.
Plus a few short-timers way back that Tom told us.
Oh, yeah, they were, right, so like Frank Church, 2 or 3 weeks. Right.
Okay.
But the village was so proud of us. Now, let me do a bit of a disclaimer here. I'm telling this as I remember. Other people may see it differently. But I'm doing my best. This is how I remember. Unity Village was so proud of us. We were like the star in the crown. And they wanted to make an example of us. So when we moved into our new church at 8th and Kentucky, they decided we should be a real church, not a study group, and they assigned us a minister. Okay, like I say, we've had, let's call it 20, because 20 major ministers. Of those, 3 were not really a very good fit.
Sorry.
2 were fine, but the rest were beloved by the congregation. Absolutely beloved. We loved them, they loved us. The first minister that the village sent us was one of the 3. They did their best, and I'm sure he did their best. But you know how we are. We're kind of avant-garde. We like new ideas, and this guy was a Christian. He wanted to tell us how to discipline our children. Did not go over well at all. So even though we were supposed to keep him for 2 years and pay him a salary, the way you can tell that it's not a good match is because you have 3 or 4 people in the congregation and nobody's giving money. So we wanted to get rid of him. And the village said, well, you can't. And we said, well, this is our place, we're going to. And we did, but then we couldn't be a church anymore. That was how they punished us. So then we were back on the circuit for student ministers. And we could try them out, and we could get absolutely the very best. We had Sharon Poindexter, we had Sam Wendell, we had, tons and tons, Vic Jenkins, yeah. People that inspire, yeah. yeah. They inspired us, they helped us to grow, they allowed us to fly. And then in the late 80s, 89, 90, I was president of the board. We lost our building. The bank tore it down.
That's when you know you lost it.
When you show up and it's a pile of bricks, you know. It happened. And as usual, our minister had graduated and gone on, so we needed a minister. And Sharon and Jerry Harper, I think that's the time you guys got together to make us a church, if I remember right. And here I am, president of the board. We need a new minister, we need a new building, and we're becoming a church. I asked for volunteers. I had so many volunteers. Pay attention to this. I had to make up jobs. I did. 30, then 40 volunteers. And Paul Justice and his friend Nancy drove around North Lawrence and found a church for $54,000. We had to raise $5,400. We had no money. My parents sent me a check for $500 for the church, and we raised the other amount, the other $4,900, in a matter of months. Now that is on our path. That's where we've been, and that's what we can't get away from, because this is who we are. So we tried out another minister, and this time, see, we've never had a congregation full of people like Bill Gates. We have people for whom life and living and loving is more important than pockets full of money.
Yes, ma'am.
So we do our best, and we give our tithes, and we do what we can do, but we've never yet been in a position where we can pay a huge salary. So this time, the people who interviewed maybe weren't quite as dynamic as those wonderful students, but we did get a minister who was just fine. She tried to impress us by saying she was a marathon runner and she was over 40. And we said, fine. Well, she was from Dallas, where women over 40 didn't run marathons. So we learned from her, but she learned from us. And then she moved on. So this is where we've been, time and again. When we set our intentions like we did last time, we get Sherrie Schultz. We get Diane Strickland. We get Rev Sherrie. Darlene Strickland, right.
Yeah.
And when, okay, the couple of times, the other 2 times, and this is like I say, just from my point of view and my memory, when we have gotten the ministers who were not that great of a fit, I believe we lost our priorities. We gave in to grief and mourning. And we put as an important priority someone who will stay here and never leave. Mm-hmm. We lost our path. Mm-hmm. We forgot who we were. We didn't ask for someone spiritually mature, loving, dynamic, who inspires transformation. And I tell you this, when we manifest our true, heartfelt, beloved ministers, we learn to fly. And we teach them to fly. And when someone learns to fly, they may fly away. But this is who we are. And this is the true path. Ecclesiastes says it best. For everything there is a purpose, there is a time for everything under heaven. And one of the lines says, there is a time to mourn and a time to dance. And guess what? Last week we did both at the same time. So now is our time. And we're going to do it right again. I am so pleased that so many people are here today. When Sharon said it would be her and me, I thought, well, maybe 2 people will show up. So let's continue on our journey and stay on our path.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I don't need that. That's okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. And Jo was not even a Southern Baptist. She's gotten that way through her political leanings. She was a Methodist, and you know they're not that fiery, usually. All right. Just a little extra. Now, I said that we might not always agree. I'm not going to mention which facts I remember differently, but there are some, but they're irrelevant. Okay. So I won't get into it, even though I do like to be right. I'm not going to do it. I've been there before. I'm right. Okay. So, yes. When I came here to this community, not this building, in 1984, and Benita came shortly thereafter. I always have to say it was a little after me.
3 months.
But you know, I learned a lot in those 3 months that she missed. So, I remember that we had some financial challenges, and it was proposed at a meeting, a consciousness meeting or whatever we call it, to do fundraisers and to go sell hot dogs or something at the Royals games, is something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people were going, okay, I'm signing up. Well, here's where I was. I stood up and said, some of us just want to come here and do nothing. And I was speaking to myself. And there was a moment of silence. And then somebody said, okay, thank you. And I sat back down. And that's where I was. And I always like to make my position clear about things. Because I wasn't selling any hot dogs, and they needed to know it, you know. And I didn't. But other people did, and it must have helped, because we're still here. We didn't go under, so it must have helped. But we all have different ways. But what I want to say is, if that's where you are now, if you're sitting back there thinking, I just want to come here and do nothing, you better watch out, because in 35 years, you might be giving the talk. Because, yeah, you know, spirit might get a hold of you. So... But some of the things that were important to me along the way, one of them was a minister named Sharon Poindexter, and she was a very, very dynamic speaker, charismatic. Now, she had a lot of stuff that she needed to learn about finance.
Oh, she was the president of the National Association of Women Business Owners.
Oh, that's true.
When she was a friend of mine.
Yeah, right. But as far as our budget goes, she had a lot to learn, because there was this one budget that was fantasy and another that would have been reality, and she went with the fantasy one. And when she left, of course, we had to pay the bills. But she was dynamic. She was influential. She is the reason I became a licensed teacher. Because it was about 1987, and she said, we went on a board retreat. Benita and Jo were also on the board. The three of us tried to run the church, but we're over that now. Okay. Yeah, we were into it then. Control. Okay, so Reverend Sharon said, this church needs 3 licensed teachers. And I said, I'll be one. And I can be disciplined, because I did. I went to all those classes for 3 years at Unity Village, and I did all the work, and I graduated, and I became a licensed Unity teacher. And actually, we never achieved the 3, but David Mosher is the only other person who's done that, and he is now a minister who has been our minister and is still around in Lawrence. But I was inspired by her to do that. And another time she said, this church needs a non-smoking AA group. And in those days, in AA, we just chain smoked. We just drank coffee and chain smoked. And I feel sorry for the people that weren't smokers. I didn't know the difference, because I was, you know, and some people had tried to start non-smoking groups, but they always failed because it wasn't the right time. But I heard her say that, and I said, I will. And I started one, and it's still meeting here, Amazing Grace AA. And it was the first non-smoking meeting that took hold because it was the right time. If it hadn't been the right time, it wouldn't have happened, but, you know, things fall together. So that's some of the stuff that was important to me. And then we have had some very, very inspiring ministers along the way. And when I think of the people who have most influenced my life, personally, I usually think of some of our ministers. Because for me, those are the people who have most influenced my life. They aren't the only ones, but they hold a special place in my heart. And as you know, of course, Reverend Sherrie holds a special place in my heart and probably most everybody's heart. You can't please everyone, but almost everyone. And so that remains. And I have been dancing and grieving. I have been for weeks. I got mad at her for one whole week, and you know I told her. But I got over that part. It was like, you're leaving us. Yeah, that's what she said when, like, that rat thinks Sherrie is running out on us. Well, I was like that for a week. And then I was really sad for a week, and I'm getting to where I can be a little bit sad, but I can also accept what is. Because that's what I have to do. That's my job. Accept what is and remember the things that she, as well as others, have taught me about stepping into my own power, about knowing who I am, and about being a more loving, kinder person. You guys will be really happy to hear that one. But because I used to have a tone of voice issue. I've been working on it for years, and it's a little better. But I did. All right. Now, I came in the other day and I looked at that door, and first I went, she won't be here anymore. And then I said, bless the person whose office that will be next. Yeah. All right? Yeah. Yes. That's right. Okay. Because we are attracting the right minister for us. And I want to put a plug in. I've heard some say that the board is going to hire a part-time minister. Now, why would we do that? What would be the reason? Money. We would be, let me say it, afraid we couldn't pay him. Is that who we are? No. Okay, then we are the ones, we need to step up and go sell hot dogs at Royals games. Oh, no, I didn't say that. What, Linda?
We need to have a dance.
Oh, well, let's talk about that later. Okay. Okay, later for that. I don't really want to get into fundraising right now, but I just want to get into consciousness raising right now. We are the ones who support our community, and we're the ones who pay the salary of the minister. And if we have a part-time minister, we're going to have part-time service. Not Sunday service, but that's about all we'll have. Is Sunday, all right? So if you want, when we say what's important to us in a minister, well, if it is things also, as well as a dynamic speaker on Sunday, if it is someone to have pastoral skills and that you can go to when you would like to be held up. We also have chaplains, but still, they hold us up in prayer. But if you want that, a part-time minister really won't have time. They'll be trying to earn a living in Kansas City at their other jobs. So it's something to keep in mind. What do we want, and what are we willing to give in exchange for it? So let's just be open to that and know what we're saying. We want this and this and this, and we're going to hire a part-time minister. Sorry. So let's just be aware, okay? And, of course, I have no opinion on the matter. I'm just presenting the facts. So, all right. So, I am going to close now and have our wonderful musician play something for us before we go into meditation. So thank you for listening to all my ranting. Thank you, Joe, for your wonderful chronology and analysis. All right. And thank you, Steve.